summertime in the city, and the perfect timing to maybe make a picture-perfect pie, which is where Mike Yawney is this morning. And the secret is in an ice water bucket, Mike?
That's right here. This is the secret right there. And by the way, this pie, it's not just for show. It's still warm. It came out of the oven not too long ago, and it smells absolutely delicious. We are unveiling and uncovering the secrets of pie this morning here at SAIT Culinary Campus. Chef Rose joining us. It's a science. It really is. You said that people think pie is simple. No. But there's actually a lot to it.
There is. Pies are actually complicated, in my opinion, and they take practice. It doesn't happen overnight. Some of the secrets I can tell you. So this here is a very, very simple pie dough. Okay. It is made using pastry flour. So it's 2 cups of pastry flour and 1 cup of butter. Okay? If you use pastry flour, you get a more tender product because the gluten tends to be more of a weaker gluten.
So don't use all-purpose.
Don't use all
pastry.
Go for the the cake and pastry flour.
Okay.
Another big secret: make sure your butter is cold. So this actually just came from the freezer.
That is cold.
I had the flour in the freezer. I had the butter in the freezer, and also there's a ½ teaspoon of salt. Okay. So we're going to make the dough together.
2 cups flour. Cup butter, a little bit of salt.
A little bit of salt.
We're ready to go.
So here in Calgary, I find it's a little bit dry, so we'll actually use up to 1 cup of water. But it can be anywhere from ½ cup to 1 full cup of water. Okay. Okay.
Now I've got these guys. What are these called?
These are bench scrapers. Okay. So this is just to cut the butter into the fat. Okay. So you can either use bench scrapers, you can use 2 knives, you can use forks. But the idea is literally, this is called cutting the fat into the flour.
So am I doing it right? Just
that is excellent. That is awesome.
Mush it up.
You can use a food processor, whatever method you are most comfortable with.
Is it better to use hand than food processor? Will you get a better product?
The key, whatever you can do to keep the fat cold. So if you have like really warm hands, you might want to use the food processor. But I like using my hands because it's a little bit more tactile, and I have cold hands.
Make sure these are cold too. Don't make sure they're not too warm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So what I'll do here, I'm going to add the water in. And I like working on the table like this because I can really see the product.
And it's okay to make a mess.
Of course, we're in the bakery. We're in the bakery.
So when do I add the water? How do you know when it's time to add the water?
You want to cut the dough until it's about the size of pea-sized particles. Okay. If you want like a really, really flaky dough, you would cut the fat until it's hazelnut size. And if you want like a more dense dough, you would cut it until it's a cornmeal size.
I'm surprised this actually works fairly well. I thought it was going to take forever, but it actually breaks down the butter quite fast. So you're still adding a bit of water there. So when do you know that your dough is ready?
When basically it's by feel. So from practice, it should feel like a nice soft dough. And one of the secrets too is make sure you add enough water, because if you don't add enough water, what will happen is your dough will tear later. So you want a relatively soft dough. So if you feel that, Mike. Okay.
So we're going to keep working on our dough. In the meantime, we're going to throw it back to the station. We'll see how this dough turns out. You know what, guys? These work really, really well. It's surprising.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun too.
And then the key is get it wrapped.
He's got the rhythm going.
You got to get into a rhythm, yeah.
Yeah. That's a good tip, though, the ice water and the butter in the freezer.
Butter in the freezer, flour in the fridge, ice water, everything's cold.
Especially around this time. It's going to be hot this week in Calgary. And let's check out how things are on the morning drive. Dave? It's pie day for Mike Yawney. We already perfected the crust, and now it comes to the core. Mike?
It is. You know, Jill, Ted, they say not to play with your food, but this is hard not to. We have got a really cool gadget here, actually, to peel and core and slice the apples. And Chef Rose joining me this morning. We're talking about apples turning brown. This was cut not too long ago. It's turning brown. There's a secret, actually, to make sure your apples don't turn brown.
Yeah, exactly.
That was cut at the same time, yet that one's perfect. What is the key?
So the secret is to toss it in lemon juice. So once you toss it in lemon juice, that stops the browning from happening.
100% lemon, or can you add lemon and water? What's?
You can do lemon and water. You can actually soak the slices in lemon and water, or you can toss it in lemon juice, either or.
Does not impact the flavor.
It'll make it a little bit more tart because you are adding lemon juice to it.
Now, speaking of tart, what is the proper apple? What should you be using? Sweet apples, tart apples? What do you
I like Granny Smith apples because Granny Smith apples will hold their texture a little bit better. Okay. And they are a little bit tart. And we do add quite a bit of sugar to a pie filling to make it sauce-like, so it balances out the sugar as well.
Now this contraption here is perfect when you're making pie.
Yes.
If you don't want to use canned, if you want to use fresh. So all you do is you stick the apple on, and then you start turning.
Yeah, you just turn it and you just hold it down here. Yeah, and then keep turning, keep turning, and keep turning. It does the peeling and the coring for you. And if you're serious,
pull it off.
Yeah. If you're serious into making a lot of pie, it saves a lot of time.
I got another Slinky. I broke that one too. Okay, so we cut them all up. You threw them in with some sugar, white sugar.
Yeah, so this is, it's about 6 large apples. And then I have about a cup of sugar in here. And this is just the sugar and the apples. And the sugar actually draws the juices out of the apples.
It smells really good.
Yeah, and I also have some vanilla in here, so there's real vanilla bean in there.
How do you know how long to cook it though? You don't want to make it applesauce.
Well, I just want to cook it until it's partially cooked. So I still want the actual pieces in there. And because they're Granny Smith apples, they actually won't break down very easily. So here I'm going to add some butter, and I'm going to add about a teaspoon of cinnamon, a pinch of nutmeg, and some salt. And then what this does is this kind of draws all the juices out of the filling first. So then this way we won't have a filling that sinks down so much when it's in the pie. And this way you get a lot of control of the flavor too as well. You can adjust the sweetness levels, you can adjust the acidity too as well. Okay. Here I have cornstarch. So this is about 3 tablespoons of cornstarch and about a 1/4 cup of water.
Okay.
And I've just mixed the two together. You pour that in.
That's going to thicken.
Yeah, and this will thicken it up. And once this comes up to a low boil, it'll start to go clear, and it'll start to thicken and become like a sauce.
Okay, so we're out of time, so we're going to let you continue this. We're going to go on Periscope, so if you're watching at home and you want to learn more about making the perfect pie, especially pie filling, jump on Periscope, BC Calgary, follow us there, and you can watch and we'll ask. You can ask questions to Chef Rose. In the meantime, I have no idea where this fork has been. I'm going to use it right now. I'm going to totally eat some of this filling. Delicious.
Oh, yum.
Begs the question. Is the filling the best part of the pie, or is the pastry the best part of the pie?
It's the combination.
I happen to like the pastry.
Do you?
People like
more
the filling.
than the filling?
Yeah. I happen to like the icing on cake more than the cake. Some people like the cake more than the icing.
All about the icing. I'm with you there.
There you go.
We're going to roll out the dough. We made the dough, we made the filling. It's time to roll it out. And of course, I found the ultimate rolling pin here in the kitchen. Chef Rose, you gave me the option between this, and this. And of course, I'm a dude. This is the dude roller, so I've got this one here. What's the first step to rolling it out?
First thing you want to shape it into a relatively round circle.
Okay.
And then you want to use some dusting flour, obviously. Make sure you have a nice clean surface.
Yep.
And then I'm going to start rolling out, and I actually focus at the 3 o'clock section here. So it's the center of the rolling pin, focused at 3 o'clock. And I make sure I turn. This is crucial to keep it from sticking. Make sure you turn as you go. So I'm always turning it. And I keep going in a circle. And if you find that you start to get, like, say, an off corner, you can take the side of your hand, because the side of your hand is a round shape, and you can kind of poke that corner back in too as well.
Okay.
So I keep going around.
So keep turning is the real key, because you want to keep it round. You don't want it to start forming a square or anything.
And really, as you start to roll more thin, what's really important is that you add a little bit more dusting flour. So when it starts to get bigger, add a little bit more dusting flour then, because that's when there's greater surface area, and that's when it tends to soak in a lot more flour. So that's when it's really important to add a little bit extra flour.
Now, you still want to make sure that your dough is cold. And for example here, this stuff has already warmed up, and you can see, watch when I put my finger in there, how soupy it is. It actually is really sticky, so you don't want that, so make sure it's ice cold.
Yes, exactly. So this was sitting cold in the cooler, because you want to keep the fat cold, and you want to keep the dough relatively firm too as well.
Now, I'm not sure if Ed, working the camera this morning, actually can get close up here. You can see those chunks of butter that we were talking about, that you want to make sure that you still have those butter chunks in your pastry. Don't mince them to nothing. You still want them in there, right?
Yeah, absolutely, because that will melt in the oven and that will form your flakes. Now, I'm going to go in the center and I'm going to roll in all directions, because the center is a little bit higher, because we've been rolling around the edges. And see, now I really make sure I'm turning so that it's not sticking to the table.
Forgot to dust it underneath. It's pretty sticky.
This is the part where, when you forget to dust here, this is where it can stick.
Okay, so if you end up going too fine, or if you crack it, can you just mend it back together?
Remember, this is going on the bottom of your pie plate. So because it's on the bottom of the pie plate, no one's going to see it.
No one's going to see it.
Yeah, so if you say you do tear it like this, just patch it together and press it together, no one will know.
Okay, so we are going to jump on Periscope once again with Chef Rose here. If you have any questions when it comes to baking a pie, there's lots of things. There's, for example, if you're using fruit compared to a custard, you should be baking at different temperatures, different parts in the oven. So if you want to know some of that stuff, Ted, you'll jump on Periscope. Keep watching because there's lots of things to know about baking pie. It is a science.
It is a science. It is an art.
I would love to be there right now. I happen to love the pie crust. I would just eat the crust.
Yeah.
We've been making apple pie all morning long. We've kind of gone through the process from making the dough to making homemade filling, which for a lot of people is kind of a big step. They're used to using canned filling. Chef Rose joining us this morning. Now we got to top it off.
Yeah.
You said one of the nice ways to make a presentation is the lattice top on a pie. And you say it's not that hard to do, actually.
Yeah, it's actually pretty easy. So here I've just cut 1-inch strips, and then I've rolled out a circle, cut the strips out, and I'm going to lay every second strip down. And this way I make the best use out of the circle.
Okay.
And then...
Oh, you still need one on the edge?
I like
Okay.
just trying to even them out here. And then what I do is I lift up every second one, and I take your middle strip, place it down, put that down, lift up these ones here. Place this down.
It's like you're weaving your...
It is. It's like I'm weaving the pie
weaver.
dough. Let's see if we can do this. And then this one here. One more. Yeah. And then I'm going to attach these. Just make sure they're stuck on. I'm just using a little bit of milk.
Okay.
And I'm actually going to brush milk on top afterwards because...
So this almost works like a glue?
Yeah, it works like a glue. And not only that, the proteins and the fat in the milk actually help color the crust.
So that's when you get this, the perfect golden crust that we see down here on the finished pie.
Yeah, exactly. And then to do the edge here, so I've only attached about half of them just for time. I'm just going to take a fork dipped in flour and just pressing it along the edge. And that'll help attach everything together.
Okay. And then cut.
And then cutting it too as well. So that gives you an idea of how to finish off the pie.
We've been talking a lot about how baking really is a science. For those who want to learn more, there's classes you can take here.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have our Baking and Pastry Arts program. We have apprenticeship programs as well. We have our Introduction to Cooking and our Introduction to Baking classes. So we have a number of different classes. A lot of people don't know about the apprenticeship programs.
Right.
So we have our Baker Apprentice and our Cook Apprentice, and those are actually 8 weeks of training at a time. You learn all the basics, and then you also go out to industry and do training too
There's
as well.
the casual ones though too, just for an evening if you want to learn how to make a pie or something like that. Speaking of pie, I think it's time. This has been sitting here all warm. I've cut myself a little piece here, so I'm gonna actually no. Maybe I'll bring this back to the studio and I'll have my own little piece over here. I think it's only fair that we taste
Yeah.
what we've been working on all morning long. I'll say this: delicious, number one. I was skeptical about the granny green apple.
Were you?
Because they're so tart, but it's a nice mix of sweet, tart. Well done.
Yeah.
Well done. See, making
Well,
pie.
Thank you for your help,
Everyone
Mike.
can do it.
Awesome.
Anyone can do this. I'm gonna get back to eating. Maybe I'll bring a piece back for you guys. Maybe. We'll see.
Yes, please.
We need some ice cream.
A side of
Put it
ice
on that
cream.
pie.
That's how you do it? My mom used to have cheese on the side of her.
Oh yeah,
it's a good,
cheese is also good.
good combo.
I like cheese with just like, let's talk about Granny Smith apples. Granny Smith with a slice of cheese on top.
We're all hungry here. We're going to
Yeah.
take a quick break, 8:55. You're watching Breakfast Television on City.